Alan Lord, welcome to Stockport County Live. It's an absolute treasure to have you on, sir. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Chris, and thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Just before we start going into our conversations, just tell me what I can see on the wall behind you there. You've got a couple of shirts and a very nice picture by the looks of things.
Oh, that's I think people refer that to be that photo as Giddy Lordy. That was at Wembley. Yeah, May I think it's 26, 2008. And I did a jig. Don't ask me why. I have no idea why that. Apart from the fact that we won it was a great performance. But doing my jigs is not the best thing for photographs. I can tell you that. And with regard to these are just mementos from players that have been here and that were good enough to give me the shirts and stuff like that. So I've just kept them on the office, out of enjoyment when I come in, and good memories really.
Who have we got on the wall there? Is that Josh Thompson, Anthony Pilkington, and who would the England shirt be?
This is actually Josh Thompson's England shirt. He played for England at under-18s, and this is quite a funny story actually. It's to me. He turned up at one of my coaching sessions one day, and he said, "I've got something for you," and he brought me his England shirt, which I thought was. I mean, I'll be dead honest with you. I'd struggle to give away my England shirt. Not that I've got one, but I'd struggle to give that away. So, but he was a great lad, Josh. I've known him a long time, and we had some good memories as a young player. And obviously, I brought him into Stockport County, and he went on to Celtic. So he's had a good career, but a top lad as well. Absolutely top lad.
Wow, I was gonna save players that you've worked with and everything else till later, but what a story to kick us off with. I mean, when a player comes to you, and everyone who even slightly knows the name Alan Lord knows what you've done for bringing players through and everything else, but when a player does something like that and brings to you an England shirt, and like you say, they're pretty few and far between for most of us, an England shirt of our own that we played in. When someone comes and gives you that, just what went through your head? What emotions were you feeling when he passed it to you?
The truth is, I was just starting the session, and he's walking in. It was at Woodley actually, and he's walking in, and he said, and I thought, "Oh, blimey, it's Josh Thompson." So I just stopped the introduction to the start of the session, and I said, "Lads, just have a look round because we've got a player here that's been recognised to play for England international." And he turned round and he had it in, I think it was either a Tesco bag and he just pulled it out and said, "I've got something for you." I was absolutely stunned. I was speechless, which is not a major attribute, to be quite honest. But it was a nice gesture, and I really value it immensely.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's a hell of a story. Do you stay in touch with Josh still now?
Yeah, Josh lives not so far away from where I live, and he actually plays for Atherton Collieries now, which was where I found him, many years ago. So he's back playing for the club that he started his career with. He had a very a bad injury at one point, but he's had a great career. I mean, the other shirt up there, the hoop one, is when he went to Celtic from Stockport County. So yeah, it's a nice memory. He's a really good lad and an absolutely top player.
Again, something I was going to save for later, but while it's there, I just can't ignore it all. We've got the other shirt up there is something of a collector's edition, I'm sure. Not only is it an Anthony Pilkington shirt, it's the gold one, if my eyes aren't betraying me. It's one of the gold shirts there, and he was a player. Again, he's come through the Alan Lord School of Excellence, and he's turned out to have quite a good career.
I'm not so sure he knows I've got that shirt, to be fair. I get out the kit bag. So I'll have to admit that to him one day. But yeah, it's a good memory because he was another young player. And, I think 18, 17 when I first met up with Anthony at Myerscough College. And we've had a really good relationship over the years. And obviously, it's a great memento for me to be able to. I'm not so sure what he'll say if he ever sees this, and I've been looking for that shirt for years, but it's here, Anthony. I've got it for you. I'm saving it.
I'll have to text him after this and just tell him that we've got it. But I'm sure he keeps looking all over the house for it. Yeah. But when you look back at some of these players, and we'll speak about more over the course of the next half an hour or 40 minutes or so. But when you look back at these players that you've worked with, and you see the careers that they've gone on to have, I know that you personally have played such a big role, and I know, knowing you the way that I do, I know that you will look to say, well, you're part of a team and you work with Jim and everyone else, but you individually have played such a big part in these boys' careers. How does that make you feel?
It's good to look back and reflect, and to be honest, they had that much ability that all of them probably would have gone on to have good careers anyway. I think I was, you say that they were the fortunate one. I think I was the fortunate one, being in the right place at the right time and being able to spot and work with these players. And I have to say, I look at the list of players that have gone through the system, and they were all top lads, and a lot of them have had really good careers. So I'm happy for them, to enjoy watching their progress as well. Really good for me.
Does it surprise you in any way when you see us put interviews out with the likes of Tommy Rowe, who again, I mean, currently championship player, not just a championship player, but a top end championship player. He's challenging for the playoffs for the Premier League, just the season just finished. So he, he's right up there. And when I say to him, what do you think of Stockport County? He says, just immense pride. And then he name drops working with Jim Gannon and Alan Lord and everything that they did for his career. For the fear of asking you the same question again, these players, whether you would agree with them or give them that to say, I don't know, but they believe that they owe it to you, because without that experience, that amazing career doesn't happen.
I'd like to disagree with them. They don't owe me anything, to be quite honest. I owe them the fact that I've been able to watch their careers and play a little part in it and enjoy it. And when you see that, you get a feel about a player and you recommend them, and then they go on to achieve great careers, it's to be quite honest, I'm the happy one, because I've had such enjoyment watching people, like Tommy. We had a nickname for him, Tommy Two Men, because he was worth two players on the pitch, whatever game he played in. So players like Tommy and Pilks and Josh and other players, they bring immense happiness and pleasure to me just watching their careers, to be quite honest.
When you look back at that picture on the wall behind you and you think about those days, was it something that you could ever have dreamed of? Listen, now you will know better than anybody. We were speaking about it just the other week at one of the pre-season friendlies. You will know better than anyone. So many people get into football. Some of them have a little bit of success at the beginning, but then more often than not, it trails out to nothing. And unfortunately, that's just the way the game is. Could you ever have imagined when you started working in football that you would be in this position now, where you've got that picture on the wall behind you, you've got those shirts, you've got the radio asking you for interviews and podcasts, and you've been the manager of a club the size of Stockport County? Could you have imagined that was to come down the pipe?
No, not at all. I mean, I started off, I was half decent footballer when I was sort of 15 to 18. And then by the time I was 20, I was a failed footballer. So reflecting back on that, there were good times and bad times. I never expected to have the career that I've had. But to be honest, I've worked with some fantastic people, and I've enjoyed that journey with them. And I couldn't have imagined it or envisaged it, but I've been fortunate. And I look back now to all the years, and that particular one, apart from the jig, as I mentioned before, I mean, that was a day and a half. That in itself was just unbelievable. And to be sat there at Wembley, that, believe it or not, was my first ever time at Wembley, and the last time. So it's such a memorable occasion. Brilliant memories for me. Absolutely superb. What a great day that was for me, for the manager, for the players, for the club, and also for the fans. You know, you don't get many days like that.
Take us back to that time period, because when I think back, and again I've said this a few times, back in those days I was still a student, just a fan, never worked a day on the radio, never had any connection with the club other than coming to the games week in, week out. Jim Gannon's the manager, and everybody knows who Jim Gannon is because he's played for County for so long. Peter Ward is his assistant manager, and everyone knows Peter Ward because he played for County for so long. He's got this relationship with Jim. And then Alan Lord, the dream team was Ward, Lord, and Jim, whichever way you want to put it. People didn't really know Alan Lord as well as they knew the other two. So how did you come to be a part of that team, and what memories do you have from living through it?
There might be a few gaps in here. In this. At my age,
celebrating that went on.
But, I first remember around about 2000. I have two sons, both decent footballers. One got a chance for a trial at Stockport County around about 2000, 2001, and he eventually got himself a professional contract at Stockport County. But I was also introduced to the Centre of Excellence, and I managed to get a coaching job with the Centre of Excellence back in the early 2000s. So that was the start of my relationship with Stockport County. And the first person that had a massive impact on me was Peter Ward. I'd never met Peter before, and we both was coaches at the under-16. I was the assistant, he was the main coach, and I worked alongside him, and I learned an awful lot from him. Just so many things that the interview won't be long enough to list the amount of work that I'd experienced. I learned from Peter, and then subsequently Peter introduced me to the gaffer, and it was at that point where really my whole football world opened up again. And that was the main part of my life. And so I've been connected with the club since 2000, which is 20 years. And I think those are the two people that have had a major influence and a major impact on the happy days of my career, to be honest.
You mentioned a term there where you said it was the right place at the right time. When Jim came into County, for the first time as manager, and relegation looked like it might be happening, and Jim's kind of worked wonders almost instantly, really. And then he's built this team around him. Do you need that kind of, I don't want to call it luck, but when you say right place, right time, it is the right term to use. Do you need that sometimes in football, to have the right people just there? Because listen, Jim, in my opinion, is a tactical genius. I'm sure many of the fans would agree with that and everything else. But he can't do it all by himself. He needs that team around him. He needs the players to be in the right place at the right time. The staff around him. Everything just needs to click. Do you think that was needed at that time? Do you think the right place, the right time is the right way of putting it?
Yeah, I think it was for me, because I was fortunate to work with two people like Jim and Peter, but also the players that he had around him. He didn't bring them in by accident. He obviously worked very hard, himself and Peter, selecting those players, and they were a group of good people, good talent, and obviously the manager's skills that he has, and as you say, the attention to detail. He does all the finer points that you probably won't get with a lot of other managers. And there's many players of that period went on to have really, really great careers, and I think they will all reflect back and use the same starting point. The starting point was Stockport County, and starting people was Jim Gannon and Peter Ward. I think if you spoke to all of them, I'd be very surprised if they didn't come back with that answer, to be honest.
What was it like being in the dressing rooms and in the dugouts and in the offices and on the coaches and everything else around that time? Because the majority of the people that we've had on in these last few weeks, you look at the likes of Gary Dicker, Tommy Rowe, and Wilkinson, they're all players at that time. So they have one perspective of it. But when you're on the other side, when you're sitting at the management table on the bus or in the dressing room, whatever, what was the experiences like for you?
Blimey, that's a really good question. The experience was unbelievable, because I know a lot of people talk about Jim and his attention to detail, but I remember the first thing that I really remember is going into the dressing room and seeing templates on the wall of opposition players, our players, set plays, patterns of play, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So I'd never come across that situation before. Most of the time I'd been at lower level non-league clubs and managing and coaching, but I'd never come across that amount of detail, and that really opened my eyes. And from that point, then I think I got more professional, looking at trying to improve my ways of finding players. But Jim and Pete had just a massive impact at that time, like they did on players. That it was exactly the same with me. It was great working with them. They were so committed. The training sessions would focus on different items, and if it went wrong at any point, we started again and did it again and again and again until it got right. I hadn't experienced that before, but then you pick up those and they become part of your armour, and you look to improve some of your own methods only by being able to see how it's improved and how it was practiced by other people. So they had a massive influence, and it was a great time. Even though it was hard work and very disciplined, there were really some good fun times as well. But the results, at the end of the day, it's all in results, and we went through a really good period and the results were excellent, and that's the part that you get full enjoyment out of.
Just talk us through the dressing room on the day of Wembley, when just from start to finish, before the game, half time, after the game. What was that atmosphere like? What was it like being inside those four walls?
Well, I hadn't got a clue what Wembley was like. I mean, the Wembley I saw was Stanley Matthews and all that years and years before that. So the new Wembley was an unbelievable place. And even just going in there, the night before and getting in the coach and having motorcyclists, police cyclists just guiding us in, so it was trouble-free. Getting into Wembley itself was unbelievable. And the dressing rooms, I remember going in there and thinking, oh my God, it's like a dance hall. Not that I know what dance halls are, by the way, but it was massive, and it was just a whole new ball game to me. The game went so fast, and all I remember are the goals, and I remember the set plays coming off, certain things that we discussed and practiced all week. And I think that jig at the end, which I'm still embarrassed about, by the way, I think that jig at the end just reflects how happy the day was. It was just a fantastic time. Absolutely fantastic.
Had you been practicing the jig all week?
You haven't.
That's what we need to know. In those dance halls.
No, not a chance. I mean, I look at that photograph and think I must take that down. I've been saying that for ages. But to be honest, it's coming down today. I'm looking at that in the reflection in the screen. I'm thinking, Al, you're doing yourself any favours whatsoever. I think
it's got to stay up. It's got to stay up. It's part of the furniture now. So if you can, let me try and get some memory joggers then for that game, because one thing that I've always been quite intrigued of is at half time at Wembley, what is the mood in the dressing room? Because you're so close yet you're so far. It's the next 45 minutes are going to determine so much in your football career. Do you know what I mean? It's from a club's perspective. We've been to Wembley a number of occasions before. We've never won there. It's the new Wembley. It's a young team. There's potential if we go out and get embarrassed. If Rochdale go out and hit, come straight out of the blocks, and we can see 3 or 4 goals. It's quite embarrassing. A lot of players won't recover from that. Or you could be the player that goes out and scores a hat trick, and all of a sudden, there's so much can happen. And in the next 45 minutes, hour and a half, whatever, your career is going to be impacted by this. So what is the atmosphere like when you're getting ready for that?
It's tense. I think it's nervous for the players, but I think the management team at that time spent so much time in dealing with the personalities of the players and getting the most out of players. And I think half-time, prior to the game even, there's such a lot of detail that goes out to the players, and they practiced it all week. And I think in that particular game, a lot of it had come off. And I remember, you know, that Jim used to work an awful lot on throw-ins and certain patterns of play. And that was a day where the whole thing came off. And I was talking to a member of the opposition only the other day, and he was discussing that particular game. And he said, we had no answers to you. But that was planning. That was methodical planning and giving players freedom and knowing the players what they could do and what they couldn't do. There was a lot of talent in that group. Molding that to come up with that performance was incredible. And to come out with a result, I mean, it's nerve-wracking, don't get me wrong. You know, everybody's got the nerves, but there's enough experience in Jim and Peter to come in at half-time and settle the nerves, and then you've got the first half of the game plan sorted out, and you go out and deliver in the second half, and then it's just a case of ticking the box and job done. And you know, that was reflected. I think there's a lot of people in there that will have that same photograph, and they'll agree. I think they will agree with what I've said there. It was a harmonious dressing room. It was perfect. We've got a great result. It was probably the best day of a lot of people's lives. And I think looking back on my football career, that goes at the top.
From speaking to you in various different roles over the years, both formally and informally, on air and off air, and all the rest of it, I think the first thing that I always think of when I speak Stockport County with Alan Lord is you're passionate about this club. You saw it when you were manager. If we get a good win, if a result goes against us, you can just radiate that energy from you straight away. And even just now, you know, we're just sitting back having a chat about this time and that time, and you can feel it coming off you. This is a club that means a hell of a lot to you, isn't it?
Oh, blimey. I mean, I've been in and out of Stockport County. I think it's 4-5 times over the years through different circumstances. And I'm back here now. And I think anybody that's connected with County, I mean, I've got a letter on the wall here. I was just reading it prior to you coming on. It's from a fan. And he's speaking about his son, and his son had a choice to go to watch Man United or come to Stockport County. And on the letter on the wall there, it says that he came to Stockport County, and from that point he was hooked. And I think I was hooked. I think a lot of people get hooked.
Yeah.
Massive club, massive potential, biggest non-league club in the country, fan base, lots of history, a manager that's been a player here. It's got everything. It's got everything. So I can understand a lot of people using Stockport County as their main part of their memory from the football. Yeah. It's obviously the main one for me.
So on to the present then. You mentioned you've had 4 or 5 different roles. There's been a well-documented big change in recent months with regards to Stockport County. New ownership, new direction. The club has noticeably moved through the gears in recent weeks and months. And your role's changed. You're still involved. You've still got your office there. You've got Michael Rains and Damien Allen alongside you. Just talk to us a little bit about what's going on with Alan Lord and Stockport County at this moment.
Over the past few months, I think it's about 3 or 4 months now since we was able to sort of come out of lockdown. I've been handing over what I would call my knowledge of the academy and various bits and pieces. And I'm still working a bit of a dual role at this moment in time, working down at the academy and then obviously setting myself up to start the new role, which is going to be in a scouting position for the club. And that's going to involve a young players, development players, and obviously players that may be past development that actually catch the eye. So I'm going on to a scouting role, and if it's if I'm being perfectly honest, that's the one that I've had a lot of enjoyment over the years. So I'm quite happy to go down that road, to be fair.
And working with Rainsy and Damien Allen, what's that like? What's working with those boys like?
Well, Damien and Michael were part of. They actually played when I was coaching in the early days, so it's not like anybody's coming in that's new, you know. So the transition in terms of knowledge and information, I think it's been quite well. I would imagine that they would probably say the same. But they're starting up in the academy. They're now looking to take the academy to the next level, which I think they will do. And I've obviously now got a role back, which I want to see the remainder of my career out, and maybe bring in, you know, the next player or maybe the next two players. We've got different roles, different objectives, and I think both sides are going to do well.
Is that still a level of inspiration to you to find maybe the next Anthony Pilkington or the next Josh Thompson?
I'd be so disappointed if I can't do that. I'd be so disappointed with myself. I'm not one to shout the odds, but I just hope. I think I'm going to do that. I've got confidence in myself in terms of the scouting, and there's a lot of players come through, and I think I've still got the same sort of mindset and the same vision. So I'm hoping that I do get all the players for Stockport County. It's an absolute must for me.
Since the takeover, working in the club, since the new roles have opened up, the new people have come in, the new players have come in. How have you found working there? What's different? Is it very different? What's it like on the inside?
In terms of being on the inside, I don't actually come into EP a lot because I'm working down at the academy. But I've come to the last couple of games. You can feel the buzz, you can feel the energy, you can feel the expectation, and I think the only thing that's missing now is the actual crowd to justify all that input. I mean, I can't imagine the spectator numbers when they're all allowed to come in. I can't imagine what that first game is going to be like, because I'm going to stick my neck out now. I think we're touching 7,000 because of the generation of interest, the expectation, the size of the club, the fan base, people coming back out of lockdown, the signings. You know, it's all pointing to the fact that when day one comes, and I'm assuming that day one, I'm talking my day one about the day that you call all the fans can come in the ground. Wow, I wouldn't like to put a figure on that, because that's going to be big. And I think it's going to be noisy. Yeah. I remember the noisiest day I've had was when they won the championship a couple of years ago. And turning into the street leading down to EP and seeing them flares and that was just on I don't know. The expectation, I think the noise from the fans, the support, the whole base, I think it's going to be magic. It's going to be intense.
Ask a silly question, I guess, but is it happening? Is promotion back to the league? Is where this club belongs? Is more trips like the one on the photograph on the wall behind you? Is it happening? It feels like it's happening.
Well, I think I think Jim is geared up. I think he's got a fantastic team of people working around him, his backroom staff, and I've got to know them over the years. And I look at all the build-up of the staff and the signings, and I keep reflecting back to the information that's going to get given to the players, not just about how the club wants to play, but opposition, etc. I think everybody's going to be armed with enough information for the players to step on the pitch and deliver that. And we're all looking forward to that day, and I don't think it's that far away, to be quite honest.
Alan, it has been a treat. I want to wrap up in just a moment. When you look, just finally, and I know we've already kind of spoke about this, but your best memories at Stockport County, your memories on the wall behind you, on the photographs, on the shirts, on the players that you've brought through. as a fan, I feel like I owe you a thank you, because what you've done for Stockport County, what you've done, part of that team and part of the management team, the structure over the years, coming in as manager when, let's be honest, it was not an easy time. You've come in and you've done it different spells. You've been caretaker manager at times. You've put players in. You're part of the club's history now.
Well, it's nice for people to say that. I've had so many good memories. I mean, I know I read an article the other week with Ollie Johnson, and I remember watching him at Nostell Miners Welfare Institute, taking a development squad, and I had Jackie Cooper at the side of me, and he come on as a sub for Nostell Miners, and he ripped us to bits, and he scored a hat-trick, and me and Jackie just looked at each other. I thought, who's this? And I thought I had to go back and see him again, because I thought that was just a flash in the pan. So I went back 2 or 3 days later, and he did the same thing. He did come on as sub. He started, scored another hat-trick. I remember coming back and giving the information to the gaffer, and he said, "Oh, bring him in. We'll stick him in a midweek game in the week." And I thought, "Oh my God, here we go." I've only just seen him twice, and I usually like to see players 3 times. And we brought him in down at Manor Farm, and we played Preston in a development game, and he came on after 20 minutes, ripped him to bits. Jim bought him off because he thought, this lad's really exciting the opposition. So we put him in, and a few months later, he's scoring that chip goal against John Ruddy. And I think, that's another great memory for me. The pitch was horrendous, and he picks the ball up on the halfway line, he goes through and dinks over Ruddy. That was class. So the memories I've got of Stockport County, it's been the club for me. As I said, I've been associated 20 years, and long may it continue, and long may the fans enjoy what Jim's producing for the club.
Absolutely. Alan, it's a perfect way to sign off. I can't thank you enough for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris.